Kiera Thompson was sprinting down a Seoul alley in 6-inch heels at 2 in the morning, and this was definitely not how she pictured her Tuesday going. The man chasing her was dressed as a giant chicken, a literal walking chicken costume, complete with feathers and a beak that bobbed with every step he took. She could hear his muffled screaming through the foam head. This was what she got for accepting a blind date set up by her coworker. Her lungs burned as she rounded another corner, her braids whipping behind her. The chicken man was surprisingly fast for someone in a poultry costume. She could hear his feet slapping against the pavement, getting closer. Why was he so athletic? What kind of psychopath wore a chicken suit to a first date and then chased women through Gangnam? Kiera's heel caught on a crack in the sidewalk. She stumbled forward, arms windmilling, and crashed directly into something solid. Not something. Someone. The impact sent her phone flying, and she grabbed onto the person's coat to stop herself from face-planting onto the concrete. She looked up into the most beautiful face she had ever seen. Sharp jawline, perfect skin, eyes like dark ice. The man was at least 6 feet tall, wearing an expensive black suit. He stood completely still, staring down at her with an expression of absolute horror. Not disgust, not anger, pure, unadulterated horror. Then he screamed. Not a small scream, a full volume, "Someone is murdering me" scream that echoed off the alley walls. Kiera jumped back, startled. The gorgeous man was now pressed against the wall, breathing hard, looking at her like she was a cobra that had just dropped from the ceiling. "Don't touch me," he gasped in Korean, then switched to English. "Do not touch me." "I wasn't trying to," Kiera started, but the chicken man chose that moment to round the corner. "Kiera!" the chicken screamed. "We're soulmates! The universe told me!" The handsome man's eyes went even wider. He looked between Kiera and the charging chicken, and something seemed to click in his brain. Without warning, he grabbed Kiera's wrist, not her hand. Her wrist, careful to avoid skin-to-skin contact with his fingers on her jacket sleeve. "Come," he said shortly, and pulled her toward a black car parked nearby. "Wait, I don't know you either," Kiera protested, but honestly, expensive suit guy seemed marginally safer than chicken suit guy. At least he had good taste in cars. He opened the back door and gestured sharply for her to get in. Kiera hesitated for exactly half a second before the chicken man got close enough for her to see his eyes through the mesh in the costume head. They were wild, unhinged. She dove into the car. Expensive suit guy slammed the door and walked quickly to the driver's side. Not ran, walked. Like he was too dignified to run, but was definitely in a hurry. He slid into the driver's seat and locked all the doors just as the chicken man reached the car and started banging on the window. "Kiera! I love you! I knew from your profile picture! The spirits confirmed it! Drive!" Kiera yelped. The man didn't need to be told twice. The engine roared to life, and they peeled away from the curb. The last thing Kiera saw was the chicken man standing in the middle of the street, his wings drooping in defeat. She slumped back in the seat, her heart still hammering. "Oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you. I thought I was going to die. Death by chicken. That's not how I wanted to go." The man said nothing. His hands gripped the steering wheel, and Kiera noticed he was wearing driving gloves, expensive leather ones. At 2 in the morning, in summer. So thanks for the rescue," Kiera said, trying to fill the awkward silence. "I'm Kiera. I'm from Chicago. Well, originally from Chicago. I live here now, in Seoul, obviously since I'm here, teaching English. Not that you asked. Still nothing. You can just drop me at the nearest subway station," she continued. "Or, anywhere that's not near that chicken man." The man's jaw tightened. "The subways are closed. It's past midnight." His English was perfect. British accent. Fancy. "Right. Yes. Time. I lost track." Kiera laughed nervously. "So, maybe just a well-lit street? Preferably one with security cameras?" "You're bleeding." Kiera looked down. Her knee was scraped, blood trickling down her shin. She hadn't even felt it happen. "Oh, that's fine. It's just a scratch." The man made a sound that might have been a growl. "I'm taking you to get that cleaned. You'll get an infection." "Really? I'm fine. I'm not asking." "Well, okay then." Kiera sat back and decided to just go with it. This night was already so bizarre that being kidnapped by a gorgeous germaphobe in a luxury car barely registered on her weirdo meter. They drove in silence for about 10 minutes. Kiera snuck glances at the man. His profile was perfect. Like, sculpted by angels perfect. But he looked tense. His shoulders were rigid, and he kept flexing his fingers on the steering wheel. So, do you make a habit of rescuing random women from chicken men? Kiera asked. No. First time for everything, huh? Apparently. Another silence. Kiera was not good with silence. I'm going to need your name at some point, she said, for when I tell this story to people. Hot guy in suit doesn't have the same ring to it. Was that the tiniest hint of a smile? It was gone too fast to tell. Min Jae-hyun, he said finally. Nice to meet you, Jae-hyun. Wish it was under less poultry-related circumstances. This time, she definitely saw his mouth twitch. They pulled up to a building that looked far too fancy to be a hospital, all glass and steel and modern architecture. Jae-hyun parked in an underground garage and got out. He opened Kiera's door but stepped back immediately, maintaining a careful distance. This is a hospital? Kiera asked, climbing out. Private clinic, Jae-hyun corrected. Come. He walked toward an elevator, and Kiera followed, her broken heel clicking unevenly on the concrete. Inside the elevator, Jae-hyun pressed the button for the 5th floor, and then immediately retreated to the opposite corner, as far from Kiera as physically possible. Kiera watched him. So, the not touching thing. Germaphobe? His jaw ticked. Something like that. But you grabbed my wrist earlier. You were about to be caught by a man in a chicken costume. It seemed the lesser of two evils. Kiera couldn't help it. She laughed. A real, genuine laugh that surprised even her. I really appreciate the sacrifice. Jae-hyun's expression softened slightly. The look on your face when you crashed into me suggested you were genuinely afraid. I was. He showed up to our date at a fried chicken restaurant wearing that costume and said it was thematically appropriate. Then he told me the universe sent him visions of our future children. I ran. He chased. You know the rest. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped into a pristine white hallway. Everything smelled like antiseptic and money. A sleepy-looking nurse appeared from a side room, took one look at Jae-hyun, and immediately straightened up. Mr. Min, she said, bowing. Then she saw Kiera, and her eyes went wide. Oh, you brought someone. She needs her knee cleaned and bandaged, Jae-hyun said briskly. Possible debris in the wound. The nurse looked between them, like she was witnessing a miracle. Of course. Right away. Please, miss, come with me. Kiera followed the nurse into a treatment room, glancing back at Jae-hyun. He stayed in the hallway, leaning against the wall, looking exhausted. The nurse cleaned Kiera's knee with expert efficiency, chattering the whole time in Korean. Kiera caught maybe half of it with her intermediate language skills, but the gist seemed to be that Jae-hyun never brought anyone anywhere, and this was the most exciting thing that had happened in months. Is he famous or something? Kiera asked in careful Korean. The nurse paused, then laughed. You really don't know? Should I? The nurse seemed to think this was delightful. Min Jae-hyun. His family owns half of Gangnam. Hotels, restaurants, entertainment companies. Very rich. Very powerful. Very, very untouchable. The untouchable part seems literal, Kiera muttered. When the nurse finished bandaging her knee, Kiera limped back into the hallway. Se-hyun was on his phone, speaking rapid Korean to someone. He sounded angry. When he saw Kiera, he ended the call abruptly. Better? He asked. Good as new. Thanks. Kiera gestured to her ruined shoe. Well, mostly new. The shoe's dead. Jae-hyun looked down at her feet, then at his watch. It's 3 a.m. I'll take you home. You don't have to. Where do you live? Kiera sighed and told him her address in Itaewon. They rode the elevator back down in silence, but this time it felt less awkward, more comfortable, like they'd established some kind of weird temporary truce. In the car, Kiera finally had to ask, So, the touching thing, you can't touch anyone? Jae-hyun's hands tightened on the wheel. It's not your concern. I'm not trying to pry, I'm just curious. You wear gloves to drive, you stand in corners. You looked like I'd stabbed you when I grabbed your coat. I have a condition, he said stiffly. Physical contact causes me distress. Pain? Panic. Oh, Kiera processed that. But you grabbed me anyway, to save me from the chicken. Yes. That must have been hard. Jaehyun glanced at her, surprise flickering across his face. Like he hadn't expected understanding. It was manageable. They lapsed into silence again, but Kiera's mind was racing. A rich, gorgeous man who couldn't stand to be touched. That was some serious romance novel material right there. Not that she was thinking about him that way. Definitely not. She'd just survived a chicken-related trauma. Romance was the last thing on her mind. Except he really was gorgeous, and he'd saved her, and there was something about the way he'd looked at her in that alley, like he was calculating risk versus reward, and she'd somehow come out ahead. This is it, Kiera said as they pulled up to her apartment building. It was significantly less fancy than anything else she'd seen tonight. Jaehyun parked and looked up at the building. You live alone? Yes. Why? The chicken man. He might know where you live. Kiera's stomach dropped. She hadn't thought of that. Oh God, he might. My coworker set us up. She knows my address. Jaehyun's expression darkened. Get what you need. You're not staying here tonight. Excuse me? It's not safe. Get your things. You can stay at one of my properties. Kiera stared at him. I just met you. You could be worse than the chicken guy. I could be, Jaehyun agreed. But I'm not. And I have security cameras. Many security cameras. He had a point. And honestly, Kiera didn't love the idea of staying in her apartment, wondering if a man in a poultry costume was going to break in. Fine, she said, but I'm texting my friend your license plate number, and your name, and a description, and if I disappear, she's going to the police. Smart? Jaehyun said approvingly. Go. Quickly. Kiera hurried up to her apartment, grabbed her work bag, and stuffed some clothes and toiletries into it. She texted her best friend Minji, a quick explanation that sounded absolutely insane, even as she typed it. Minji responded with 12 question marks and a demand for updates. Back in the car, Jaehyun drove them to a high-rise in Gangnam that looked like it cost more per month than Kiera made in a year. He parked in the underground garage and led her to a private elevator. This one required a fingerprint scan. You own the whole building? Kiera asked. Just the top 3 floors. Just the top 3 floors. Sure. Normal. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse apartment that looked like it belonged in an architectural magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering Seoul skyline. Everything was sleek and modern, and probably Italian. Guest room is down that hall, Jaehyun said, pointing. Second door. Bathroom attached. There's toiletries in the cabinet. Take whatever you need. This is really nice of you, Kiera said. Weird, but nice. I don't like leaving problems unsolved, Jaehyun said. The chicken man is a problem. We'll solve it tomorrow. He said we, like they were a team now. Okay, Kiera said. Thank you, really. Jaehyun nodded and started to walk away, then paused. Kiera. Yeah? Lock your door. Not because of me. Just, in general. Good practice. He disappeared down another hallway before she could respond. The guest room was bigger than Kiera's entire apartment. The bed was enormous, covered in what felt like Egyptian cotton sheets. The bathroom had a rainfall shower and a tub that could fit 3 people. Kiera took the fastest shower of her life, changed into her spare clothes, and collapsed onto the bed. What a night. What a completely insane night. She was just drifting off to sleep when her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Sleep well. Alarm system is active. You're safe. Jaehyun. He must have gotten her number from the clinic paperwork. Kiera smiled and texted back. Thanks again for the rescue. I owe you one. The response came quickly. No debt. Good night, Kiera. She fell asleep with her phone still in her hand, a small smile on her face. The next morning, Kiera woke to the smell of coffee. Good coffee. She stumbled out of the guest room, following the scent to a massive kitchen where Jaehyun stood by an espresso machine that looked like it required an engineering degree to operate. He was wearing different clothes. Black slacks, white dress shirt, no tie. His hair was slightly damp. He looked unfairly good for 9 in the morning. Coffee? He offered, not looking at her. Please, I'll love you forever. Jaehyun's hand paused for just a moment on the machine, then continued. He poured coffee into a mug and set it on the counter, stepping back so Kiera could approach. She took the mug gratefully and sipped. It was perfect. Oh my God, this is the best coffee I've ever had. It's Colombian, single origin. It's heaven in a cup. Was that a smile? It was definitely almost a smile. I contacted the restaurant where you met the chicken man, Jaehyun said. They have security footage. I've sent it to my lawyer, along with a request for a restraining order on your behalf. Kiera nearly choked on her coffee. You did what? The man was harassing you. That's illegal. The restraining order will be processed today. How did you even? I made some calls. At 9 in the morning? At 6 in the morning. Kiera set down her mug. Jaehyun, that's incredibly nice, but you don't have to do all this. I can handle it myself. Can you? Jaehyun looked at her directly. Do you know how to navigate the Korean legal system? Do you have a lawyer on retainer? Do you have security personnel who can ensure the chicken man doesn't approach you again? Well, no, but... Then let me help. There was something in his voice. Not pity, not condescension. Something else. Something that sounded almost like loneliness. Okay, Kiera said softly. Thank you. Jaehyun nodded and turned back to his coffee. I have a meeting at 11. My driver will take you wherever you need to go. I can take the subway. My driver, Jaehyun repeated firmly. Humor me. Kiera found herself smiling. You're very bossy. I'm efficient. Bossy. Practical. Controlling. Careful. Jaehyun met her eyes, and there was a hint of amusement there. There's a difference. They stared at each other for a moment, and Kiera felt something shift in the air between them, something warm and unexpected. Then Jaehyun's phone rang, shattering the moment. He answered in Korean, his tone immediately shifting to cold and professional. He walked out of the kitchen, still talking. Kiera finished her coffee and tried not to think about how comfortable she felt in this stranger's apartment. How easy it had been to banter with him, how she wanted to know more about him, about his condition, about why he'd helped her. She was in trouble, definite trouble. Jaehyun's driver was a serious-looking man in his 50s who introduced himself as Mr. Park and drove like he was transporting royalty. He took Kiera to her school where she taught English, waited outside for her entire shift, and then drove her back to her apartment. Mr. Min says to collect your things, Mr. Park said in careful English. You stay at penthouse until Chicken Man is resolved. He said that, did he? Mr. Min is very insistent. Kiera could imagine. She packed a proper suitcase this time, including her laptop and enough clothes for a week. If she was going to be a temporary house guest to a gorgeous germophobic businessman, she might as well do it properly. Back at the penthouse, she found a note on the kitchen counter in sharp, precise handwriting. Emergency at office. Will be late. Food in fridge. Make yourself at home. J.H. Make herself at home. In a penthouse. Sure. Kiera explored a bit, careful not to snoop. The living room had a massive TV and a bookshelf filled with English and Korean literature. The view from the windows was stunning. There was a home gym, a home office, and what looked like a meditation room. She settled on the couch with her laptop and worked on lesson plans, helping herself to fruit from the fridge. It was surreal. Comfortable, but surreal. Jaehyun came home at midnight. Kiera had dozed off on the couch watching a Korean drama. She woke to the sound of the elevator and sat up quickly. Jaehyun looked exhausted. His tie was loosened, his shirt slightly wrinkled. When he saw her on the couch, he stopped. You're still awake, he said. I fell asleep. Just woke up. Kiera rubbed her eyes. Long day? Very. Jaehyun set down his briefcase. You ate? I had fruit. I didn't want to mess with your fancy kitchen. It's a kitchen. Use it. He walked to the fridge and pulled out ingredients. I'm making ramyeon. You want some? It's midnight. That wasn't a no. Kiera found herself smiling. Sure. Yes. Ramyeon sounds good. She watched as Jaehyun cooked, his movements efficient and practiced. He was still wearing his gloves. She wondered if he ever took them off. He served the ramyeon in 2 bowls, setting hers on the counter and taking his to the opposite side. They ate in companionable silence. The restraining order is processing, Jaehyun said finally. Should be finalized tomorrow. That's fast. I know people. Apparently. Kiera twirled noodles around her chopsticks. Can I ask you something? You can ask. I may not answer. Fair. Your condition. Have you always had it? Jae-hyun was quiet for a long moment. No, it developed 5 years ago, after an incident. An incident you don't want to talk about. Correct. Okay. Kiera didn't push. Can I ask something else? You're very curious. Occupational hazard. I'm a teacher. Jae-hyun's mouth twitched. Ask. Why are you helping me? Really? It can't just be about solving problems. Jae-hyun set down his chopsticks. He looked at her across the kitchen, his expression unreadable. You didn't treat me like I was fragile, he said finally. When I told you about my condition, you didn't pity me. You didn't ask invasive questions. You just accepted it. It's your business, Kiera said with a shrug. Everyone has something. Exactly. Jae-hyun picked up his chopsticks again. Most people don't understand that. They finished eating, and Kiera helped clean up, staying on her side of the kitchen, while Jae-hyun stayed on his. It was like a choreographed dance. Good night, Kiera, Jae-hyun said, as she headed to the guest room. Good night, Jae-hyun. This became their routine. Kiera would go to work, come back to the penthouse, and Jae-hyun would come home late. They'd eat together, sometimes talking, sometimes not. It was easy, comfortable. On the 4th night, Kiera cooked. She made jerk chicken and rice and plantains, filling the penthouse with spices that probably had never been there before. Jae-hyun came home, smelled the food, and actually smiled. A real, full smile that transformed his entire face. What is this? He asked. Food from home. Well, my mom's home. She's Jamaican. I'm first-generation American. This is her recipe. They ate, and Jae-hyun made a sound of approval that sent an unexpected flutter through Kiera's stomach. This is excellent, he said. Thanks. Cooking is my stress relief. You're stressed? A little. The chicken man thing. Living with a stranger. The usual. Jae-hyun frowned. I'm making you uncomfortable. No, you're not. You've been nothing but kind. I just meant the situation is weird. Not bad weird, just weird. Agreed. Jae-hyun took another bite. Good weird though. Yeah, Kiera said softly. Good weird. Their eyes met across the kitchen, and there it was again. That warmth, that pull. Jae-hyun looked away first. The restraining order was finalized today. The chicken man has been officially warned to stay away from you. Oh, that's great. It was great. So why did Kiera feel a small pang of disappointment? So I can go home. You can, if you want to. Do you want me to? Jae-hyun's jaw tightened. I think you should do what makes you comfortable. That wasn't an answer. Kiera decided to be brave. I'm comfortable here, she said. Jae-hyun's eyes snapped to hers. You are? Yeah, I mean, if it's okay with you, I could pay rent or something. No rent. Jae-hyun's voice was firm. If you stay as a guest. I can't just freeload. You cook. That's payment enough. Kiera laughed. I cook one meal and suddenly I'm a private chef? You cook well. I eat badly when left alone. It's mutually beneficial. Mutually beneficial, Kiera repeated. Okay, then I'll stay. For a while. If you're sure. I'm sure. They smiled at each other, and Kiera felt something shift. They weren't strangers anymore. They were something else. Something she didn't have a name for yet. The next week passed in a blur. Kiera fell into a rhythm. Work, home, cook, eat with Jae-hyun, talk until late. She learned he liked mystery novels and bad action movies. He learned she could do a perfect impression of her students. They laughed more, sat closer, though never touching. It was on a Saturday, 2 weeks after the chicken incident, that everything changed. Kiera was in the kitchen making bibimbap when the elevator dinged. She looked up, expecting Jae-hyun, but instead, a woman stepped out. She was stunning, tall, slim, wearing a designer dress and heels that cost more than a car. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like she'd stepped out of a K-drama. She also looked furious. Who are you? The woman demanded in Korean. Kiera's brain scrambled to translate. I'm Kiera. I'm staying here temporarily. You're staying here? The woman's voice rose. Jaehyun let you stay here? Who are you? Kiera asked, her own defenses rising. I'm Yoon So-jin, Jaehyun's fiancé. The word hit Kiera like a physical blow. Fiancé. Jaehyun was engaged. I didn't know, Kiera said numbly. He didn't mention. Of course he didn't. Seojin stalked further into the apartment, her eyes scanning Kiera up and down. Let me guess. You're some charity case he picked up. He does this sometimes. Finds broken things and tries to fix them. I'm not a charity case. No? Then what are you doing in my fiancé's apartment? Wearing casual clothes? Cooking in his kitchen like you belong here? So Kiera had no answer for that. Because Seojin was right. She had gotten too comfortable. She'd started thinking of this place as home. Of Jaehyun as… what? A friend? More than a friend? The elevator dinged again. This time it was Jaehyun. He took one look at the scene, and his expression went carefully blank. So-jin, he said. I wasn't expecting you. Clearly. Seo-jin gestured at Kiera. Want to explain why there's a woman living in our apartment? It's not our apartment. It's mine, and Kiera is a guest. A guest who's been here for 2 weeks? Yes. Seo-jin's eyes narrowed. We need to talk. Alone. Jaehyun looked at Kiera. She couldn't read his expression. Kiera. It's fine, Kiera said quickly. I'll go to my room. She fled, hating herself for running but unable to stay. In the guest room, she sat on the bed and tried to process. Fiancé. He had a fiancé, and he'd never mentioned it. Not once in 2 weeks of late-night conversations and shared meals. She could hear raised voices from the living room. Seo-jin's sharp and angry. Jaehyun's low and measured. Kiera couldn't make out words, but the tone was clear. After about 20 minutes, the voices stopped. The elevator dinged. Silence. Kiera waited, unsure what to do. Then there was a soft knock on her door. Kiera! Jaehyun's voice. Can we talk? She opened the door. Jaehyun stood there, looking more tired than she'd ever seen him. I'm sorry, he said. I should have told you about Seo-jin. Yeah, you should have. Kiera crossed her arms. Are you really engaged? Technically, it's complicated. Complicated how? Jaehyun ran a hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration she'd never seen from him before. It's a business arrangement. Our families want the merger. Seo-jin and I agreed 2 years ago. A business arrangement, Kiera repeated flatly. You're engaged for business. Yes. Do you love her? No. Does she love you? No. She loves the idea of being part of my family. The status? The money? Kiera shook her head. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. It's practical. It's lonely. Jaehyun flinched like she'd hit him. Perhaps. They stared at each other. Kiera's heart was pounding. She should pack her things. Leave. This was too messy. Too complicated. But she didn't want to. I should go, she said anyway. Don't. Jaehyun's voice was rough. Please, don't go. Why not? Because. He stopped, started again. Because these 2 weeks have been the best I've had in 5 years. Because you make me laugh. Because I don't feel broken when I'm around you. Oh. Jaehyun, Kiera said softly. You have a fiancé. I'll end it. What? The engagement. I'll end it. I've been trying to find a way out for months. This is the push I needed. You can't end your engagement because of me. We barely know each other. I feel like I've known you for years. Jaehyun stepped closer, still maintaining distance but closer than he usually stood. Tell me you don't feel it too. Kiera wanted to lie. Should lie, but she couldn't. I feel it, she admitted. But that doesn't mean we should act on it. Your family, your business, your whole life is tied up in this engagement. My whole life has been tied up in obligations I never wanted. For once, I want to choose something for myself. I can't be the reason you blow up your life. You're not the reason, you're the excuse. There's a difference. They stood there, facing each other, across 3 feet of space that felt like miles. Give me 2 days, Jaehyun said. Let me handle Seo-jin and my family. Then we'll talk. Really talk. About this. About us. Us. The word sent shivers down Kiera's spine. Okay, she said. 2 days. Jaehyun nodded and left, and Kiera collapsed on the bed, her mind spinning. The next morning, Jaehyun was gone before she woke up. He left a note saying he'd be dealing with family matters. Kiera went to work, barely able to focus. Her students asked if she was sick. She claimed allergies. When she got back to the penthouse that evening, there was a package waiting for her. Inside was a new pair of shoes, the exact style she'd been wearing the night they met, before her heel broke, and a note in Jaehyun's handwriting, replacing what was lost. Back tomorrow. Jaehyun's Kiera held the shoes and tried not to cry. The next day was worse. No note, no text, nothing. Kiera taught her classes on autopilot. Minji called and demanded to know why she looked like a zombie. Kiera gave her the abbreviated version. Girl, Minji said, you fell for a rich, engaged man. That's either a K-drama or a tragedy. I know, I'm an idiot. You're not an idiot, you're human. But be careful, rich families don't like disruption. Kiera knew she was right. She was probably setting herself up for heartbreak. She got back to the penthouse at 7. Jaehyun was there, standing by the windows, looking out at the city. He turned when he heard her. Hi, she said. Hi. He looked nervous. Min Jaehyun, who commanded boardrooms and ran companies, looked nervous. I talked to Seo Jin, and my father. Kiera's heart started hammering. And? The engagement is over. Officially. Seo Jin was actually relieved. Turns out she's been seeing someone else for 6 months. My father was less pleased. How much less pleased? He threatened to disown me, cut me off from the family business. Kiera's stomach dropped. Jaehyun, no, you can't. I told him to go ahead. Jaehyun smiled, and it was genuine, free. I have my own money, my own investments. I don't need his company, and I don't need his approval. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He took a step toward her. I'm done living for other people's expectations. I want to live for myself, and I want to see where this goes. With you. If you want that too. Kiera's eyes were stinging. You really ended a 2-year engagement because of me? I ended it because it was wrong. You just helped me see that. Another step closer. So, what do you say? Want to try this? Whatever this is? Kiera laughed through the tears that were definitely falling now. You're insane. Is that a yes? That's a yes. You dramatic, ridiculous man. Jaehyun's smile could have lit up the whole city. Come here. Kiera walked toward him until they were a foot apart, as close as they'd ever been without accidentally colliding. I still can't touch you, she said softly. I don't want to cause you panic. We'll figure it out. Jaehyun extended his hand, still gloved. Together. Kiera took his hand. Even through the glove, even without skin contact, it felt like coming home. They stood there, holding hands like teenagers, grinning at each other like idiots. So what now? Kiera asked. Now I take you to dinner. A proper dinner. A date. A date with a man who can't hold my hand properly. This will be interesting. I'm full of surprises. He wasn't wrong. Dinner was at a private restaurant, just the two of them, in a room overlooking the Han River. They talked for hours. About everything. His childhood, her family, his condition, her dreams. They laughed until their sides hurt. They argued about movies. They found out they both loved terrible puns. It was the best date Kiera had ever been on. When they got back to the penthouse, Jaehyun walked her to the guest room door. Thank you, he said. For tonight. For everything. Thank you for rescuing me from a chicken man. Best decision I ever made. They stood there, neither wanting to say goodnight. Jaehyun, Kiera said. Can I try something? Try what? She slowly raised her hand to his face, stopping an inch from his cheek. Tell me if this is okay. He was breathing hard, but he nodded. Kiera gently, carefully, placed her palm against his cheek. Jaehyun gasped. His eyes went wide, but he didn't pull away. Okay? She whispered. He swallowed hard. It's not panic. It's something else. Good? Something else? Very good. Kiera smiled and pulled her hand back, not wanting to push. Progress. Progress. Jaehyun agreed, looking dazed. Good night, Kiera. Good night. She closed the door and leaned against it, her heart racing. This was really happening. She was falling for Min Jae-hyun, and he was falling for her, and it was terrifying and wonderful all at once. The next few weeks were blissful. They went on dates, tried new restaurants, walked along the Han River with 2 feet of space between them that gradually shrank. Jae-hyun could hold her hand now, skin to skin, for a few minutes before needing space. It was progress. Kiera moved some of her stuff into the penthouse permanently. Not everything. She kept her apartment just in case. But this was starting to feel real. Too real, apparently. It was a Thursday when everything fell apart. Kiera was at school when she got a call from an unknown number. "Is this Kiera Thompson?" a woman's voice asked in English. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is Min Ji-won. I'm Jae-hyun's mother." Kiera's blood ran cold. "Oh, hello. I'd like to meet you. For coffee. This afternoon. I'll text you the address." "I'm not sure. It wasn't a request, Miss Thompson." The line went dead. Kiera stared at her phone. This was bad. This was very bad. She texted Jae-hyun. "Your mom just called. She wants to meet me." His response was immediate. "Don't go. I'll handle it." "I think I should go." "Kiera, no, my mother is not kind. I can handle myself. Please, trust me on this." But Kiera's stubborn streak kicked in. She was 25 years old. She could handle a coffee meeting with her boyfriend's mother. She texted back. "I'll be fine. I'll call you after." She could feel his frustration even through text, but he didn't argue further. The cafe was in Gangnam, expensive and exclusive. Jaehyun's mother was already there, sitting at a corner table. She was beautiful in the way of women who could afford the best skincare and the most skilled stylists. She looked at Kiera with cold assessment. "Miss Thompson?" "Sit." Kiera sat. "I'll be direct," Ji-won said. "You need to end your relationship with my son. With all due respect, that's not your decision. Everything involving my family is my decision." Ji-won sipped her coffee. "You're a distraction, a phase. Jae-hyun thinks he's in love, but it's just rebellion against his father. Have you considered that maybe he's actually happy? Happiness is temporary. Family legacy is permanent. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard." Ji-won's eyes flashed. "You think you understand our world? You're a foreign English teacher living paycheck to paycheck. You have no idea what it means to be part of a family like ours." "You're right, I don't. But I know Jae-hyun, and he doesn't want that life. What he wants is irrelevant. He has responsibilities. He's a grown man. He's my son." Ji-won leaned forward. "And I will not allow some American girl to ruin everything we've built. Name your price." Kiera blinked. "Excuse me?" "Your price. To leave. Everyone has one." Anger burned hot in Kiera's chest. "I don't want your money." "Then what do you want? A visa? A job? A better apartment? I want you to respect your son's choices." Ji-won laughed. It was not a kind sound. "Respect? How naive." She opened her purse and pulled out a folder. "Since you won't be reasonable, let me show you something." She slid the folder across the table. Kiera opened it. Inside were photos. Jae-hyun with So-jin. Jae-hyun with other women. Articles about his family's business dealings. Some of them less than legal. "My son is not who you think he is," Ji-won said. "He's used to getting what he wants and discarding it when he's bored. You're just the latest novelty." "These photos are old, before we met. Some are, some aren't." Kiera looked closer. There was a photo of Jae-hyun with Seo-jin, dated from last week. They were at a restaurant, sitting close, looking intimate. Kiera's stomach turned. "That's not possible," she said. "He ended things with her." "Did he? Or did he tell you what you wanted to hear?" Ji-won's smile was sharp. "My son is very good at manipulation. He learned from the best." "I don't believe you." "Then ask him yourself. Ask him about his dinner with Seo-jin last Tuesday. Ask him about the business deal they're restructuring together. Ask him why he still has her as his emergency contact." Kiera stood up, her hands shaking. "I'm leaving. Think about what I said, Miss Thompson. Save yourself the heartbreak. End it now." Kiera walked out of the cafe, her mind spinning. She didn't believe Ji-won. She didn't. But the photos, the dates, the details. She called Jae-hyun. He answered on the first ring. "How did it go?" he asked. Did you have dinner with Seo-jin last Tuesday? Silence. Jae-hyun, answer me. Yes, he said quietly. We had dinner. Kiera's heart cracked. Why didn't you tell me? Because it was just business. We're untangling our family's joint investments. It didn't mean anything. You should have told me. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't want you to worry about something that wasn't important. She's your ex-fiancé. It's important. Kiera, please, don't listen to whatever my mother said. She's trying to manipulate you. Is she? Because right now I don't know what to believe. Believe me, believe us. Kiera closed her eyes. I need some time. To think. Kiera, just give me tonight. Please. She hung up before he could respond. Kiera went back to her old apartment. It felt small and empty after weeks in the penthouse. She sat on her bed and cried, hating herself for it. Minji came over with soju and fried chicken and let Kiera vent. His mother showed me photos, Kiera said, of him with his ex. Did you ask him about it? He admitted they had dinner, said it was business. Do you believe him? I want to. But Minji, what am I doing? I'm dating a man from a completely different world. His family hates me. His mother tried to pay me to leave. This is insane. Love usually is. I'm not sure it's love. Maybe it's just novelty, like his mom said. Minji grabbed Kiera's shoulders. Listen to me. I've known you for 3 years. I've never seen you light up the way you do when you talk about him. And from what you've told me, he's different with you too. That's not nothing. But what if it's not enough? Then you'll deal with it. But don't let his scary rich mother make your decisions for you. Kiera knew she was right. She was letting Ji-won get in her head. She texted Jae-hyun. Can you come over? To my apartment? We should talk. He responded immediately. On my way. He arrived 20 minutes later, looking worried. Kiera let him in, and they sat on her tiny couch in her tiny apartment that was such a stark contrast to his world. I'm sorry, Jae-hyun said immediately. I should have told you about the dinner with Seo-jin. It was stupid not to. Why didn't you? Because I knew how it would look, and I knew my mother would use it against us if she found out. He ran a hand through his hair. I was trying to protect you from all the family drama. I don't need protection. I need honesty. You're right. I'm sorry. They sat in silence for a moment. Your mother said you're just rebelling against your father, Kiera said. That I'm a phase. You're not a phase. How do you know? Jae-hyun turned to face her. Because I've had phases. I've had flings and distractions and relationships that meant nothing. This isn't that. You're the first person in 5 years who makes me want to try. To be better. To push through my issues instead of hiding behind them. Your mother said you're good at manipulation. I am. I learned from my family. We're all excellent liars when we need to be. He met her eyes. But I have never lied to you. Not once. And I never will. Kiera searched his face. She wanted to believe him. She did believe him. But doubt still lingered. I'm scared, she admitted. Your world is so different from mine. Your family has money and power and connections. I'm just a teacher. What if your mom is right? What if I can't fit into your life? Then I'll change my life. Jae-hyun took her hand carefully. Kiera, I don't care about my family's approval. I don't care about status or appearances. I care about you. About us. About the life we could build together. You make it sound simple. It is simple. I choose you. Every day I choose you. The question is, do you choose me? Kiera looked at their joined hands. At this man who'd rescued her from a chicken man and somehow become the most important person in her life. I choose you, she said. I'm terrified, but I choose you. Jae-hyun smiled. That brilliant smile that transformed his whole face. We'll figure out the rest together. He stayed that night, sleeping on her tiny couch, because her apartment only had one bed. In the morning, they went to breakfast at a local cafe and made a plan. They would be open about their relationship. No more hiding dinners or meetings. They would present a united front to his family, and they would take things day by day, building something real. It wasn't perfect. Jae-hyun's father refused to speak to him. His mother sent increasingly hostile messages. But Seo-jin, surprisingly, became an ally. She texted Kiera an apology and an explanation. She and Jaehyun had needed to meet to finalize business matters, and she was actually grateful he'd ended their engagement. She was now happily dating the person she actually loved. Life settled into a new normal. Kiera split time between her apartment and the penthouse. Jaehyun started therapy for his touch aversion and made real progress. They went on dates, had arguments, made up, built a relationship that felt real and solid. 3 months after the chicken incident, Kiera was cooking dinner in the penthouse when Jaehyun came home early from work. "You're home," she said, surprised. "It's only 6. I left early. I wanted to talk to you about something." Kiera's heart jumped. That sounded serious. "Okay." Jaehyun walked over to where she stood by the stove, closer than he used to. He'd been getting better about proximity. "I've been thinking," he said, "about us, about the future." That's ominous. It's not meant to be. He took her hand, skin to skin, no hesitation. "Kiera, these past few months have been the happiest of my life. You've helped me heal in ways I didn't think possible. You've made me laugh, made me feel normal." "You are normal. I'm really not. But with you, I feel like I could be." He squeezed her hand. "I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other a few months. But I'm sure. I'm more sure of this than anything I've ever been sure of." Kiera's heart was hammering. "Jaehyun, move in with me. Officially. All your stuff, all your quirks, all your terrible puns. Move in, and let's build a life together." Kiera felt tears prick her eyes. "You want me to live with you? I want everything with you. But we can start with this." "Yes," Kiera said, laughing through happy tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." Jaehyun pulled her into a hug. A real hug, full contact. He was shaking slightly, but he held on, and Kiera could feel his heart racing against hers. "Okay," she murmured. "Perfect," he breathed. They stood there in the kitchen, holding each other, and Kiera thought about the chain of events that had led here. A blind date with a chicken man, a panicked sprint through Seoul, a collision with a beautiful stranger. "Hey Jaehyun," she said. Remind me to send the chicken guy a thank you card." Jaehyun laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. "Absolutely not. He did bring us together. I'll give him that, but no thank you card." "Fine, but I'm mentally thanking him." "You're ridiculous. You love it. I really do." They pulled apart, and Jaehyun cupped her face in his hands, a gesture that would have been impossible 3 months ago. "I love you," he said. "I should have said it before now, but I love you, Kiera Thompson." "I love you too, Min Jae-hyun. Even though you're dramatic and bossy and way too rich for your own good. Especially because of those things." "Especially because of those things," she agreed. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, Kiera noticed smoke. Her dinner was burning. "Oh no!" She rushed to turn off the stove, waving smoke away from the detector. "So much for a romantic moment." "I thought it was perfect," Jaehyun said, opening windows. "We almost set off the fire alarm. See? Memorable." They ordered takeout instead, and spent the evening planning where to put Kiera's furniture, how to combine their lives, what to tell their friends and family. It wouldn't be easy. Jaehyun's family was still hostile. There would be cultural differences to navigate, language barriers. His condition, while improving, was still a factor. But they would figure it out, together. Because sometimes the best love stories start with running from a man in a chicken suit and crashing into exactly the right person at exactly the right time. Even if that person is a germophobic, mafia-adjacent businessman with family drama and more issues than a magazine subscription. Especially then. Kiera moved in the following week. Her apartment looked even smaller when they were packing it up. Jaehyun sent movers, because of course he did. He showed up personally, though, helping her pack books and kitchen supplies. "You have a lot of hot sauce," he observed, looking at her collection. "I like spicy food. Deal with it." "I am dealing with it. By buying a bigger spice rack." "You're so extra." "You love that about me." "Regrettably, yes." They bantered while packing, and Kiera felt light, happy. This was really happening. She was moving in with the man she loved. The man who'd started as a stranger, rescuing her from a bizarre situation, and become her whole world. Minji came over to help, and to interrogate Jaehyun properly for the first time. "So, she said in Korean, which Kiera could mostly follow now. You're the rich guy who saved my friend from the chicken man. That's me, Jaehyun replied in English, polite as always. You heard her. I have connections to people who will make you disappear, rich or not. Minji, Kiera protested. It's fair, Jaehyun said calmly. I'd expect nothing less from her best friend. For the record, I have no intention of hurting her, but if I do, you won't need your connections. I'll handle it myself. Minji studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, I like him. You can keep him. Oh good, I was waiting for your approval, Kiera said dryly. As you should be. I have excellent judgment. They finished packing and loaded everything into the moving truck. Kiera took one last look at her tiny apartment, her first place in Korea, and felt a wave of nostalgia. You okay? Jaehyun asked softly. Yeah, just saying goodbye to a chapter. And hello to a new one. A better one. The best one. At the penthouse, they spent hours unpacking and rearranging. Jaehyun's minimalist space slowly filled with Kiera's colorful touches, her artwork, her plants, her ridiculous collection of mugs from different Korean cafes. It looks like someone actually lives here now, Jaehyun said, looking around. Is that okay? It's perfect. It feels like home. That night, they christened their new living arrangement by cooking together, actually together, in the same space, handing each other ingredients and bumping hips and laughing when Jaehyun accidentally added too much garlic. They ate on the couch, watching a terrible Korean variety show, and Kiera thought she'd never been happier. Of course, happiness never lasts without complications. The next day, Kiera was at work when she got an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "You should know the truth." Against her better judgment, she opened it. Inside was a series of documents, financial records, meeting notes, and a detailed explanation of Jaehyun's family business. It wasn't just hotels and restaurants. There were ties to gambling operations, money laundering, bribes to government officials, nothing directly illegal that could be proven, but enough gray area to paint a very different picture of the Min family empire. And Jaehyun's name was on some of the documents. Kiera felt sick. She forwarded the email to Jaehyun with a simple message. We need to talk, tonight. When she got home, Jaehyun was already there, looking grim. I got your email, he said. Is it true? Is your family involved in illegal activities? Yes. At least he didn't lie. And you? Kiera asked. Are you involved? I was. Past tense. When I was younger, before I knew better, I did things I'm not proud of. Financial manipulation. Bribery. Nothing violent, but definitely not legal. When did you stop? 5 years ago, when I developed my condition. Jaehyun sat down heavily. The incident I mentioned. The one that triggered everything. I was involved in a business deal that went wrong. Someone got hurt. Badly. Because of decisions I made. That's when I realized what I'd become. What my family had made me. That's when you developed the touch aversion. The guilt manifested physically. I couldn't stand to touch or be touched because I felt dirty, contaminated by what I'd done. He looked at her with raw honesty. I've spent 5 years trying to separate myself from the family business, building my own legitimate companies, making amends where I could, but my past doesn't disappear just because I want it to. Kiera sat down across from him. Why didn't you tell me this before? Would you have stayed if I had? If I'd told you on day one that I was part of a morally corrupt business empire? I don't know, Kiera said honestly. Maybe not. Exactly. And I'm selfish enough to want you in my life. He leaned forward. But I should have told you before you moved in. Before we got this serious. You deserved to know what you were getting into. Yeah, I did. They sat in heavy silence. So what now? Jaehyun asked quietly. Do you want to leave? Kiera thought about it. Really thought about it. This was serious. His family was involved in criminal activities. Dating him meant being associated with that world, even if he was trying to distance himself. But she also knew him. Knew his kindness. His struggle to be better. His genuine remorse for his past. I'm angry you didn't tell me, she said. But I understand why you didn't. And I believe you when you say you're out of that life. I am. Completely. Then we'll deal with it. Together. But no more secrets. If there are other skeletons in your closet, I need to know now. Jaehyun told her everything. about the deals he'd been part of, the money he'd helped move, the bribes he'd facilitated. He laid it all out, and it was ugly, but it was honest. When he finished, Kiera felt exhausted. "That's everything," Jaehyun said. "I swear, no more secrets." "Okay? Okay as in, you're staying? Or okay as in, you need time to think?" "Okay as in, I'm staying, but I'm still processing." The relief on his face was profound. "Thank you for giving me a chance. I don't deserve it." "Probably not," Kiera agreed. "But I love you anyway, even though you're a former criminal with a crazy family and touch issues. When you put it that way, I sound like a terrible romantic prospect." "You really do. Good thing you're pretty." Jaehyun laughed, surprised. "That's what you're going with? I'm pretty?" "Devastatingly pretty. It's distracting, makes it hard to stay mad at you." He stood and crossed to her, kneeling beside her chair. "I will spend the rest of my life proving I deserve your trust. I promise. That's a long time. I'm counting on it." Kiera cupped his face, and he leaned into the touch. "No more secrets. No more secrets." They sealed it with a kiss, and Kiera chose to believe in second chances, in people changing, in love being worth the risk. The next few weeks tested that belief. Someone was leaking information about Jaehyun's past to the media. Nothing major yet, just hints and allegations. But it was building. Jaehyun hired a crisis management team. They prepared statements, consulted lawyers, braced for impact. And then the story broke. Front-page news. Min family empire built on corruption. Jaehyun's past was laid bare for everyone to see. Kiera's school called her in for a meeting. Parents were concerned about their children being taught by someone associated with the Min family. The principal was apologetic but firm. Maybe it would be better if Kiera took a leave of absence, just until the scandal died down. Kiera was furious. She hadn't done anything wrong, but the principal wouldn't budge. She came home to find Jaehyun in his office, on the phone with lawyers. He took one look at her face and ended the call. "What happened?" "I'm on forced leave. Because of your family scandal." Jaehyun's expression darkened. "No, that's not happening. I'll call the school." "Don't. It'll just make it worse." "Kiera, you love teaching. I'm not letting them take that from you because of me." "It's temporary. Once this blows over." "It might not blow over. My family's enemies are using this to destroy us. It could get worse before it gets better." Kiera sank onto the couch. "So what do we do?" Jaehyun sat beside her. "We fight. I'm going public with my separation from the family business. Full disclosure about my past and what I've done to make amends. It'll be ugly, but it's the truth. Your family will hate you even more. They already hate me. At least this way. I control the narrative." 2 days later, Jaehyun gave an interview to a major news outlet. He was honest, blunt. He admitted his past mistakes and explained his 5-year journey to build a legitimate business separate from his family. He apologized to anyone hurt by his previous actions. The public response was mixed. Some people admired his honesty, others said it was too little, too late. But it was out there, the truth. And slowly, gradually, the scandal died down. Jaehyun's family took the brunt of the criticism. He emerged as someone trying to do better. The school called Kiera back. The principal apologized. She could return to work. Life slowly returned to normal. A new normal, but still. Jaehyun's condition continued to improve. He could hug now, hold hands for extended periods. He still had bad days, but they were fewer. 6 months after Kiera moved in, Jaehyun took her on a trip to Jeju Island. They stayed at a small beachside hotel, far from Seoul and its complications. On their last night, they had dinner on the beach. Simple food from a local restaurant, but the setting was perfect. Waves crashing, stars overhead, complete privacy. "I have something for you," Jaehyun said as they finished eating. "If it's another expensive gift, I'm going to throw it in the ocean. I told you to stop buying me things." "It's not expensive." "Well, it is, but that's not the point." He pulled out a small box. Kiera's heart stopped. "Jaehyun, before you panic, it's not what you think." "Not exactly." He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring with a small blue stone. "It's a promise ring. I know we haven't been together that long, and I know I come with complications. But I want you to know that I'm serious about us, about our future." When you're ready, when we're both ready, I want to marry you. But for now, this is my promise, that I'm all in. Kiera was crying, again. She cried so much around this man. You're ridiculous, she said through tears. Is that a yes? It's a yes, you dramatic, over-the-top, wonderful man. Jaehyun slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, soft and sweet. When they pulled apart, Kiera was smiling so wide her face hurt. For the record, she said, when you do eventually propose for real, keep it simple. No flash mobs or skywriting or helicopters. I wasn't planning on helicopters. Good. I was thinking hot air balloon. Min Jae-hyun, I swear. He was laughing, pulling her close. I'm joking. I know you. It'll be simple. Just us. Perfect. Good. Because if a chicken shows up, I'm running. If a chicken shows up, I'm running with you. They stayed on the beach until late, talking about their future, where they'd live, if they'd have kids, what kind of dog they'd get. It was simple, easy, right. And when they finally went back to their hotel room, Kiera looked at the ring on her finger and thought about how far they'd come. From a random collision in an alley to this. A real, solid, complicated, beautiful relationship. Hey Jaehyun, she said as they got ready for bed. Yeah? I'm really glad I went on that terrible blind date. He smiled. Best chicken-related disaster ever. The only chicken-related disaster. Let's keep it that way. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, and Kiera dreamed of their future. It wouldn't be perfect. There would be more challenges, more complications, more surprises. But they'd face it together. The black girl from Chicago and the untouchable Korean businessman who learned to touch again. It was the most unlikely love story, which made it perfect.